Chapter 18. Mr. Cullen was standing by the door to the bus when Mrs. Hester dropped off Hutch and Cody. I'm glad you came, Hutch. I'm sorry again about last night, Mr. C. I've never done anything like that before in my life. Last night was last night, Mr. Cullen said. If there's one thing I've learned in sports, it's that you can't do anything about last night. Lord knows I used to try when I was a player. Let's just do our best to support the guys tonight. I'll do whatever you say, Hutch said. How about I make you bench coach for a night? You can sit next to me when we're at bat and hold things down when I'm coaching first. Cool, Hutch said. Only he didn't feel very cool. Other than when he'd sprained an ankle in Little League, he couldn't remember one time in his life when a team of his had a game and he wasn't playing in it. There was something else bothering him. He knew he was going to have to talk to Darrell sooner or later, not just about what had happened last night, but all the junk that had been going on between them the whole season. Maybe if he'd had the talk last night, the way he'd planned before he showed up for practice and saw his dad on the field, he wouldn't be in the fix he was in now. Hutch and Cody had grabbed two seats in the very back of the bus by the time Darrell got on. Usually, Darrell liked to sit by himself in the back so he could take a nap, no matter how short the trip was. But when he looked up and saw Hutch back there, he sat down in the first row across from Mr. Cullen, who always had the first seat behind the driver. The conversation with Darrell would have to be later. Hutch waited until the Cardinals were about to go out for an infield practice, then walked over to where Darrell was standing at the end of their bench. I was out of line last night, he said. Darrell looked at him, no expression on his face, not mad, not interested, not anything, almost like Hutch was a stranger, before saying, You think? Darrell, we got to get past this, you and me, Hutch said, keeping his voice low, for the good of the team. You should have thought about the good of the team before you sucker slammed me. He wasn't going to make it easy. But why should he? Hutch thought. I don't deserve it. And it wasn't like he was going to stop being Darrell just because Hutch had apologized. Connie Hutchinson liked to say that if you were born round, you didn't die square. You're right, Hutch said. He didn't like saying that to Darrell, but he did anyway, swallowing hard, like he'd just taken medicine. I'm just asking you as best I can to go out there tonight and get me a chance to play a few more games this season. He put out his hand then, but Darrell picked that moment to start fiddling with the straps hanging off his glove, leaving Hutch hanging until he just dropped his hand back down to his side. Won't be doing it for you, Darrell said. I just don't want there to be any trouble between us, is all, Hutch said. That would be up to you, wouldn't it? Darrell said. Then the Cardinals' shortstop ran out to short, Hutch envying him more than he ever had, just because he had a game to play and Hutch didn't. The Cardinals were going with their best tonight, which meant Tripp was starting. Cody had replaced Hutch at second, going back to his normal position, and Tommy O'Neill was playing right. When Mr. Cullen gathered them around before the game, he announced that he wasn't going to wear anybody out with one of his big rousing pep talks. Rousing, coach? Cody said. Hush and listen, Mr. Cullen said, because I've basically just got two words for you tonight. Roger Dean. Hutch hadn't worn his uniform, even though Cody had tried to get him to. He was wearing shorts and a t-shirt and his favorite sneaks, an old beat-up pair of Nike franchise lows. As Mr. Cullen spoke, he hung back behind the guys who were in uniform. He wasn't a player tonight and wasn't going to pretend like he was, even now. When we get back on that bus and go back up 95 tonight, Mr. Cullen said, we're not just going to be heading home. We're going to be on our way to the finals. He looked from face to face and said, Are you all hearing me on that? Yes. Then go win the game, he said. And the Cardinals ran out to their positions from the third base side of the field. Hutch watched them go and felt like he was watching everybody get dismissed from class early except him. Mr. Cullen must have been watching him watch his teammates because he put an arm around Hutch's shoulder. You want to chart pitches? He said to Hutch. Nah, I can't follow the game doing that, Mr. C. I don't even keep score when I go to the Marlins games. He sat down at the end of the bench and Mr. Cullen sat down next to him. So just hang with me then, Mr. Cullen said. I watch you when you're playing. I see you moving guys around when you don't think I notice. I know you see stuff in games that nobody else on the team sees. I just want to see us win, Hutch said. Trip through strike one, then to start the game. All right, Hutch yelled. Mr. Cullen grinned. Easy there, Tiger. For some reason, Hutch remembered the night they'd all sat in his living room and watched the replay of his home run on television, Cody complaining that Hutch's mom was calling him a cheerleader. Now Hutch was the cheerleader, at least for a night. In the fourth inning, the Pirates leading 3-2, Hutch caught Cody's eye when he saw him shading too much toward first with a left-handed hitter, the Pirates catcher, at the plate. But even though the Pirates had four lefties in their order, only one of them had managed to pull the ball off Tripp so far. Now they had second and third, two out, the catcher up. A base hit was going to put them up by 2 runs, and Hutch, in his mind's eye, saw that base hit going right up the middle between Cody and Darrell. So without making a big show of it, any more than he would have made a big show of it on the field, Hutch just hooked a thumb at Cody and told him to move back toward second base. Cody took 2 steps. Hutch motioned with his head for him to keep going. Cody gave him an "Are you crazy?" look, but did what he was told. When Hutch finally told him to stop, Cody pointed toward the big hole that had opened up between him and Chris Mahoney, playing first, with Tripp pitching. Hutch grinned and made a calming motion with his hands, as if telling him everything was cool. Mr. Cullen had gone to get a bottle of water out of their cooler, come back with the count 2-2 on the catcher, said to Hutch, why is Cody practically standing on second base all of a sudden? He started to get up and move him back, but Hutch put a hand on his arm and said, I told him to play there. Guy's a lefty. I know, Mr. C, Hutch said, but you gotta trust your bench coach on this one. Mr. Cullen took a swig of water, spit it out, and said to Hutch, You better be right. 2 pitches later, the kid at the plate hit a hard grounder up the middle, just to the second baseman's side of the base. Cody barely had to move. He was all over the ball, not even having to backhand it, gloving it straight up and having plenty of time to get the out at first and get them out of the inning. Oh, Mr. Cullen said, I get it. That was the hole I should have been worrying about. No biggie, Hutch said, smiling to himself, feeling for a moment like he was actually in the game. It was still 3-2 Pirates. The Cardinals had gotten their runs when D. Will had doubled home Alex and Brett in the bottom of the first of the Pirates' lefty starter. Hutch knew it should have been him bringing the runners around. Could have been him if he hadn't acted like such an idiot. But there had been nothing to do back in the first inning except stand and cheer for Darrell like everybody else on the bench. Tripp, working on a high pitch count, somehow made it through the top of the fifth without giving up another run. The Pirate starter, who seemed to match every pitch Tripp threw out of the strike zone, walking a half dozen guys by Hutch's count, only made it through the fourth before the Pirates manager brought in a big righty who looked like he ought to be playing middle linebacker in football. Not good. Not even close. Because as soon as he'd pitched to his first 2 Cardinals batters, Chris and Hank, Hutch knew this kid had better stuff than the Pirates starter. Better command, 2 fastballs, one a riser, the other a mean sinker. The big righty, a 17-year-old for sure, kept the Pirates ahead by a run into the eighth. It was pretty clear to Hutch by then that they were going to pitch him the rest of the way. There wasn't anybody warming up, and the kid seemed to be on cruise control, even when the Cardinals would manage to work the count on him a little bit, which wasn't often. The Cardinals were barely forcing him to break a sweat. Got any brilliant strategy you're working on? Cody had said when the Cardinals came in to bat in the bottom of the seventh. Yeah, Hutch said. Score 2 more runs before that guy gets 9 more outs. The math sounds simple enough, Cody said. But the Cardinals managed only a single base runner in the seventh, who was immediately erased when Chris Mahoney hit into a double play. Chris tried to make up for that by at least pitching a 1-2-3 top of the eighth. 6 more outs for the Cardinals to get those 2 runs and a trip to Roger Dean. I don't know if we can hit this kid, Mr. Cullen said before running out to coach first, just loud enough for Hutch to hear. Hutch said, But he is hittable, coach. That's the thing. We're just not being patient enough, making him work hard enough. We're getting ourselves out. Cody was leading off for them in the bottom of the eighth. Hutch grabbed him as he was putting on his batting gloves and said, A walk wouldn't stink here, you know. I hear you. Hutch gave his arm a good squeeze. Ow, Cody said. Hutch said, A walk really wouldn't stink here. Do you think I'm thick or something? Cody said, then quickly added, Wait, don't answer that. Somehow, Cody, the free swinger, worked the count to 3-2. He stepped out for a moment, turned around, caught Hutch's eye, grinned. Then he got back into the box and, maybe for the first time in his entire life, laid off one of those in-your-eyes fastballs he loved more than chocolate ice cream, and the Pirates' big righty issued his first walk since he'd come into the game. Yes, Hutch said. Alex Ray's up next, top of the order. He tried to bunt for a base hit and nearly beat it out, the third baseman's throw getting him by a step. Cody moved to second on the play. Not good enough, Hutch thought. Somebody needs to smack one off this kid. He'd had things pretty much his way for 4 innings now. If somebody didn't hit a ball hard and soon, they were going to lose. Brett was up now. He grounded one that somehow was a foot to the left of the third baseman's glove and a foot to the right of the shortstop's glove and made it into short left. It looked like Cody might have a chance to score, but the third base coach wisely held him up at third. First and third, still 1 out. Darrell at the plate, batting third tonight with Hutch not in the lineup. Only problem? Darrell had done nothing against this pitcher his first 2 times up against him, acting as impatient as everybody else, popping out on first pitch, high fastballs both times. It had driven Hutch crazy from the bench. It was why he'd practically begged Cody to go up there looking for a walk. But D-Will wasn't going to be looking for a walk here. He was going to be swinging away, looking to be a hero. He and Hutch hadn't said a word to each other since they'd talked before infield, somehow managing to avoid each other in the bench area all night long. But when the Punta Gorda coach called timeout and jogged out to the mound, probably to tell his pitcher to be careful with Darrell whether he'd popped him up twice or not, Hutch got off the bench and walked toward the on-deck circle. When he was halfway there, Darrell said to him, "Not now." Hutch remembered Tim McCarver talking one time on TV about how, when he had been catching for the real Cardinals, Bob Gibson would try to glare him away from the mound when McCarver would want to talk to him, but how if McCarver had something important to say, he'd suck it up and keep going. Hutch kept going. "Seriously, this is not the time to mess with me," Darrell said. "I'm not messing with you," Hutch said. "I'm trying to help you." "Then go sit your butt down. I told you before. Go captain somebody else." Hutch stood his ground, kept his voice low, and said, "Just listen to me for 1 minute. This guy's sequence is exactly the same when one of our guys works the count. High fastball, sinking fastball, change, high fastball again, every single time. Nobody expects the change because they're fixed on catching up with his high heat." The Punta Gorda manager was jogging back to the bench. Darrell said, "And this matters to me because the change just sits there, that's why. He only throws it to set up the next fastball, make it look like it's coming in and 1,000 miles an hour, about 1,000 miles an hour." Darrell wasn't saying anything now. Or maybe he was actually listening to what Hutch was trying to tell him. Hutch leaned forward, whispering now, "The change is your mattress ball, dude." This time, Darrell took the first pitch, for strike one. The second fastball was the sinking one, the kind of pitch that always looks like a fat one until it dives toward the catcher's mitt or the dirt, like a seagull looking for food. Most of the time, the big righty had thrown it in the dirt. This time, there was hardly any late break. Darrell took it. Strike two. 0-2. He stepped out of the box, messed with his batting gloves for a second, turned and tried to stare a hole right through Hutch. Hutch didn't move a muscle. Please, he thought to himself, please don't change your sequence now. The Pirates pitcher went into his stretch, checked Cody at third, looked over his shoulder at Brett taking a short lead off first. Then he threw his changeup, threw his do-nothing changeup, and watched Darrell Williams put that effortless swing of his on it. Heard the same sound everybody else heard, the sound of the fat part of the bat on a ball that was just about the sweetest sound in this world. He knew, and Darrell knew, and everybody in the park knew. This time, when Darrell stopped to watch a few feet out of the back batter's box, he had a home run to look at, to dead center. No doubter all the way. Cardinals 5, Pirates 3. It ended that way because Pedro Mota struck out the side in the ninth. When the Pirates' leadoff man swung through strike three for the final out of the game, Hutch led the charge toward the pitcher's mound, trying to get there first even before Brett made it there from behind the plate. But Darrell cut him off. For a second, they just stood there in the middle of the infield, third base side of the mound, like it was one more stare down between them, neither one of them saying anything, until Darrell said, "Good call." "Better swing," Hutch said. "Doesn't change things between us," Darrell said, "just so's you know." "Didn't expect it to," Hutch said.